I'm going to go ahead and welcome everyone for joining us today on the virtual classroom. I have a very, very exciting lineup today. First of all, I'm going to start this lineup by saying Happy Memorial Day, everyone. And I look forward to reflecting and giving gratefulness to all of our veterans out there and all the work that they're doing and the sacrifices they made so that we could have our freedom. And today is a very interesting topic because a lot of people don't understand what it means to be a veteran and also what does that have to do with cannabis. And
Mm,
so we're going to intersect this world where when you look at a veteran's history and how PTSD can play an impact in their health
mm.
and how cannabis was a solution for their healthcare needs. And to be able to talk about these topics today, I brought in some amazing veterans that has done amazing work in the cannabis industry in paving the way and pioneering so many more can take benefits in using medical cannabis as the way to help their PTSD and other symptoms that they have experienced. So I would first like to introduce to you both Gary Hess and Leo Bridgewater. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thanks,
Thank
Shonda,
you,
for
ma'am.
having us.
Thanks for having us, Shonda.
It's really my pleasure because I've worked both with both of you extensively and I admire the work you've done. And I think the courage that you bring forward in sharing your stories in such a
Mm,
pivotal way. I don't know if many people will have the courage to do that
mm,
and share it throughout the nation to really impact and change lives.
mm.
And so I'm going to start with you, Gary. And I wanted to ask you, can you talk about what branch of the military are you affiliated with? Because I know
Yeah,
how Leo feels about this.
yeah. I was a Marine Corps infantry officer. I served in the Marine Corps for 11 years, both enlisted and as an officer. I served as mobile assault platoon commander, scout sniper employment officer, assistant operations officer, special operations training group, and again, I was later recruited by the CIA special operations group, and eventually walked away from all of it because of the toll that it had taken.
Wow. So
Mm.
you were the real deal over there. Anytime when you say CIA and sniper, I'm like, oh my God, that's the real
Mhm.
deal. And Leo, let me ask you the same question. Can you tell me about your military background?
Sure. I served in the United States Army as a telecommunications specialist. I've done multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan as both a soldier and a contractor, notably serving on the comms packages for NATO with General David Petraeus and Admiral Mike Mullins. And upon my exit from the military, I worked for the DA headquarters at the Pentagon for a number of years, and then with ITT Systems and L3 Communications. So that pretty much sums up my background's in telecommunications.
It's so interesting. My father served 20 years, and he is a disabled Vietnam veteran.
Mm,
And it's just interesting where, for me, my perspective is a little bit different because I'm a military brat. So we just got dragged all over the world and saw things but in a different,
we're supposed to
vision.
thank you for your service too. You should
Oh,
be
well,
thankful, yeah, for your service and sacrifice.
you're very grateful. I mean, thank you for that. But more importantly, I saw the impacts that I of my in my own household,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't know what was going on, and we just
Mm-hmm.
thought people were crazy in our house, and I was like, "What is this?" And then it's interesting as scientists that he's evolved in the area of cannabis to see and understand it so much better now.
Mm.
And so, Gary, with that, we think about the concept of post traumatic stress disorder, but people don't know what that is. During your service, what actually helped you, or what developed, or what did you encounter that made you develop PTSD?
So, as far as what I encountered, obviously there's a number of significant conflicts. Kind of give you an idea is, in 2005 on the Syrian border as an infantry officer, we were involved in, I think the intelligence recruit tallied, 300 engagements in less than 180 days. And then, in 2006, which I shared in a public testimony for the PAC's earlier freedom launch is as much as my team was occupying a house along the Euphrates, there was a full-size suicide vehicle-borne improvised explosive device that ran into the house that we were occupying and detonated. So clearly we saw things that our bodies did not have a file folder for, so we did not have the ability to process or understand how to process that. And so in time, that's what we take home with us, and that leads to a myriad of symptoms. So as I come back you come back in garrison and you're, right back in the workups for training, but everywhere you see, symptoms, the brochure symptoms of combat stress. So I go through and I start reading them, and 98% of them, this is what I'm doing. I'm locking every single door in my house before I go to bed at night. I'm getting to the bottom of a bottle of alcohol so I can at least get some sleep. My body's not recovering. I'm just, I'm hyper vigilant. I'm hyper aroused. I'm emotionally numb. Anytime emotions become involved, it's the default answer becomes anger, because that's our fight or flight response, right? That's our subconscious that has hijacked us, that is responding in that way. So if you look, the truth is that we come home and we see these myriad of symptoms, and this is our subconscious mind that has literally taken over, but we are able to feel it, see it, witness it. And so we feel that we are consciously in control of these activities. We're not. We do not see the neurological, physiological responses, the chemical releases inside of our body, the epinephrine that's converted to the adrenaline that creates those high states of anxiety that allows us to only focus on threats. So to come home from those experiences and not have an ability or an outlet to process that, we experience these 22 different symptoms that make up these 4 broad symptom categories that are diagnosed by exclusion. And now we're tagged with PTSD, and they slap us on the butt, give us a little money, and they say, go home. And
wow.
it doesn't work like that, right? You try holding down a job, working for an employer that doesn't understand small unit leadership, understand trying to make sense of why when a broom falls in the middle of your kitchen, you no longer want to talk to your kids or your wife, and you go sit in your garage for hours in silence. And those things are not good for a relationship. So as a veteran who did not understand what was going on and felt like he had control of what was going on, that's a losing battle. I learned about it. I started digging into the science, because I knew when I came back after the first deployment that if I was experiencing these symptoms, and the enlisted men under my command who did the work, who were in that daily grind, who were the brave heroes that don't get recognized in this process, they're experiencing it too. So what I did is I went in, I took the brass off the shoulder and said, look, I'm struggling. I'm drinking. I'm not talking to my family. I mean, who else is doing this, and all the hands started going up. So, and I say that because here's someone who thought they understood it. And I did, and I helped people understand what was going on, at least to go talk to somebody, but I thought I could control it. And then over the course of 10 years, I'm the one sitting in my living room that's eventually decides or having those thoughts that not continuing my life is the right answer. And that's a shame that these men and women who went over and sacrificed so much have to come back to a lack of answers and a lack of effort and a lack of leadership to guide the right solutions to bring a real solution to people who are struggling. I apologize, I was kind of long-winded, but
no, Gary, I think right here, people don't understand the statistics right now that 22 veterans a day commit suicide. And for you to say that you consider suicide, it brings it real to the forefront. Like, this is a real issue that's not being addressed. And our VA hospital systems, our government is not helping. And Liam, is that the same experience that you had as well?
Absolutely. I'm sitting there and I'm just listening to everything Gary's saying, and it's resonating, and it's just like, oh, like, yup. Like, one of the things I'll say is, we were able to get, I testified and said in the community to have PTSD added as a qualifying condition to the New Jersey medical marijuana program. And in 2016, Governor Chris Christie signed our bill into law. And that was around the time when the number 22 veteran suicides a day was a brand new number. And understand, that's the number they settled on. It's
That's
worse
right.
than that, actually. It was a whole lot of argument, but that's the number that they settled on.
Right.
And my experience has been, like recognizing that, where this is a generational issue as well. And so, because, there's people who still say, devil's lettuce and gateway drug and all that stuff, in the meantime, they are, Shonda, in some instances, they're mailing that stuff to us now. We're getting those pills in the mail. They passing them out like it's candy up there at the VA at one point. So it's, you, to Gary's point, you send us over there, and you tell us to come back and turn it off. You can't turn that off. And I'll be honest with you, strange thing, when I ETS'd out of the Army in 2006 and then went back to Iraq and Afghanistan as a contractor, best sleep I've gotten in years. The entire time I was downrange. I mean, I've done the best since I've been back on this side of the earth. I have not gotten the kind of sleep that I've gotten when I have bombs going off all around me and going outside the wire and running these different missions and stuff like that. You come back here and there aren't very many people around you who can talk like you can talk, and then I can't go into the VFW. I'm an alcoholic, and if I go in there, it's gonna, that's a trigger right there. So I can't go in there. There's like all these different things you got to deal with, and then on top of that, you got to, deal with, people who don't fully understand how this is, and they think PTSD is just a veteran only thing. And mind you, the name has changed. It's now PTS. They took the D out of it. It's evolved.
Yeah. So Leo, let me touch on something you said. Like when you went back overseas, you were actually you were able to sleep the best that you had in a long time, correct?
Yep.
And here's a great example, and it's so funny to hear you say that, because what happens is we come home back into, let's say, the civilian environment is what they call it, is now we are re-engaged that prefrontal cortex. This is our logical thinking human brain, right? We train to get that human brain out of the way so that we can do our job overseas, right? So when we come home to America, we are still operating within our subconscious. And that's generally fight or flight mentality, right? And then whatever gets us there, right? Because when you're overseas and you're in that situation, Cooper's color codes, you're in the orange, right? Until you the bullets start flying and you're in the red and then you're in the black. So you stay at a very high state of vigilance. And so the way I explain that is, what happens if you run a marathon, right? You come back, it'll take your body about 2 weeks to fully recover, right? To get all those aches and pains out. So, in the Marine Corps case, in the Army is 13 months, in the Marine Corps case, it's 7 months. But let's say you run a marathon every single day, your mind runs a marathon every single day for 7 months or for 13 months. How long do you think that recovery process is going to be? Right? That's what happens in our mind.
It's there. And what I'm hearing from both of y'all, that it was, so yes, I said y'all. I'm in the South.
I wasn't going to say that, Shonda. I heard it too.
Oh, you're in the South. We accept it.
I can say it down here. When I go back to the East Coast, I have to say
you gotta say you guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Better fix
it. So what's interesting is that both of your experiences, separate and distinct, you had no true rehabilitation to enter back into society after saving our lives, defending our country. There was no way that you were bridged back and helped back into this world.
Except cannabis.
So let me kind of expound upon that point. Is you brought up suicide, right? If we're going to solve this problem, what is it that leads a person to suicide, right? It's there's a lot of complexity in that, but let's look from the veteran's perspective. So when they come home, we have intentions to do great things. We have intentions to love. We have intentions to establish those relationships. When we are subconscious, hijacked by our subconscious, it prevents us from that social integration. It leads to avoidance. It leads to isolation.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to lose that social acceptance and that purpose, life becomes very futile. There's nothing that really makes sense anymore, right? So it's the breakdown of those social systems over time, that isolation, that avoidance, the lack of emotional processing that leaves you in a corner in a dark house that just thinks the world outside is against you, and you're so internal in your thoughts, the voices are so loud that the best option is not to go forward. So
Wow.
what if we created something called, let's just say this could be in the process, a therapeutic intervention program, the tip of the spear, so that when someone does experience this, because if you look at what they do in the special operations community, it is mandatory when they go on a mission that they have so much money in those operators that when they come back, they have to sit with a mental health professional to process that emotion, because it does not matter if you're a professional athlete or a professional operator on a military side. It's about emotional processing. That's the only way you can gain optimal performance. So
So,
whether it's
Gary, that's a very good point. Like you said, the mental health, operator, someone that can bring you back into society. But Leo, you didn't receive that. You had a void, and you said something just now that was key. It led to the path of cannabis. Can you
Correct.
tell me, how did this mental void or this lack of sociability made you consider cannabis? It seems like it's a jump, and I don't know if people
Oh,
understand.
there was a motivation, and
Oh,
and for me, it was very, very simple. My motivation: Brett Favre, the Green Bay quarterback, the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. He got into a situation where he was popping pills, and so after my surgeries and all that stuff, I remember watching him talk about what it was like for him going through his pill popping habit. And so I entered into the United States military with I was afraid of pills. Like I was afraid of the opioids, all because of what I had saw Brett Favre go through. Not in preparation or anything. I just had a understanding. And so when the pills were pushed onto me, what I'm saying, after multiple surgeries, after all this stuff that's happened to me, I never looked at those pills as something as a good thing. I came in with a already preconceived notion about these opioids, and but I had been consuming long before I went into the army, so I knew
mm,
already what I was going to do. The best thing that ever happened to me was the doctor told me when I woke up from my first surgery was, don't take a piss test because you gotta I'm gonna write you an excuse, like, to not take one, because we've prescribed you this medicine that's going to make you piss hot. And so all I heard was, don't take a drug test, you excused, and that you going home on convalescent leave. Oh, for real? Okay. Call my cousin up, roll it up, get it ready. I'm coming home. That was really how it was. Keeping it all the way 100.
Yeah,
Like I
absolutely.
was scared. I was scared of those pills.
Yeah.
But I never said anything. I've always, every time they were pushed onto me, I just accepted them, but I ain't taking them. And then on top of that, you got to have stool softeners and all that stuff because you can get backed up with all that stuff. So no, no.
well, Leo, it's interesting because the story with Gary, how many pills were you on?
Oh, man, I don't know. I just too many, and I can tell you for about 10 years. And it wasn't only through the VA. I mean, because I realized pretty quick that it wasn't working, and my health continued to degrade. I wasn't getting what I wanted out of life. And there were well, let's just say life was tough. And so I went to the private practice outside of the VA as well, but it was the same. So for the symptoms, we have a pill for it, and for the side effects, we have another pill. But the truth is, and after further research, is that the Western model avoids the healing process when it comes to mental health. And essentially by numbing those symptoms, we're avoiding that process. And so you brought up
But
the
I need to
introduction of
ask this question. How did you decide to use cannabis?
me.
Yes.
Oh,
So, look, and that's a great question, right? Because I'm from Southern Louisiana, and I grew
Yes.
up a Division I athlete, signed to play ball out of high school, went to the Marine Corps 11 years, came out and ran an ASME coach shop in the oil and gas industry, OSHA dominated here in Southern Louisiana. So we grew up war on drugs. If I looked at weed, my dad beat my ass. I apologize for my language, but that we all knew we got a whooping. So it was a very difficult journey, and even when I ran out of options, I would not give into it because it was so stigmatized. And even when it got to the point that I was out of options and I was using it for relief because it was the only thing that would get rid of my migraines, it was the only thing that allowed me to sit in the present. And even though I didn't understand it in depth at that point, I was still hiding in the garage because I did not want my wife. I did not want my and this is a true story. I sat in my garage in my little rundown apartment because PTSD had taken me from a level of success down to the bottom, and that doesn't look pretty. So we were doing what we had to do to survive, and I'm still hiding in a shed because I didn't want my wife and my 1-year-old son to find out. I used to sit in my garage and when I would go back in, I would hold my son in my arms and I would literally say it out loud that Daddy's not a weed head. Daddy's not a weed head. But when I started digging into the research, and if you look at this is absolute science. Canada's a lot further on this than we are, and obviously for good reasons. U.S. has a capital pharmaceutical market. Canada's obviously taking more steps to protect those veterans, and they're doing it with some of the latest and greatest technology. So what PTSD is from a neurological and a physiological standpoint is hyperarousal of the amygdala, which is a part of your brain and the animal brain, your primal, that controls those primal survival processes. And it's hypoarousal of your logical brain, that prefrontal cortex. So they actually use that high-res imaging, and when cannabis is induced, it reverses the cycle. So what happens in trauma is your smoke detector, your logical brain, your human brain, your animal brain stop talking. They stop talking. They're like, dog, I'm tired of listening to you. You know, got my ass in trouble. I'm surviving. That's what I'm here to do. So what cannabis does, it allows you to be in the present. It activates both of these cortexes. It reverses that process and allows them to start communicating again. So when I talk about cannabis help facilitate my recovery process, I'm not just saying that this is a chance. I dug into the science at a PhD, beyond the PhD level, and I understand it down to the cognitive behavioral level and the brain science level. Is that anyone who sits and denies that cannabis cannot facilitate post-traumatic growth, I would ask them to sit with me on a social platform. Let's have a public discussion, because I guarantee you, you are not right.
Well, Gary, you make a valid point, and this is about healthcare, and the science supports it. You've done the science behind it, and you decided that cannabis was the best way to heal you. I know that Leo, in the great state of New Jersey, they actually name a strain after you. Can you talk about that,
Yeah.
and what does the strain do?
What's the name? That's what I want to know.
It's it's actually called Bridge H2O.
Boom.
And you can't miss it because Shonda, I Prince Hakeem the hell out of it. It's my face that's on the package, so you ain't gonna miss it.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
But it's a cross between Kim Dog, OG, Kim Dog, OG Kush, and Alien OG. So it's a very heavy indica, leaning. What I was after was, again, for me, it's quality of sleep, and so what I will say is that cannabis has allowed me to help me to go from suffering from post-traumatic stress to living with post-traumatic stress. And I know that sounds a little bit, light or easy to come off, but trust me when I tell you, and I'm sure Gary can back me up on this, it was not an easy journey to get to being able to say it so easily. A lot went
Yeah.
into it.
Congrats to you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. And so again, listening to Gary talk about, bringing it from one part of the brain to the other, it's opened me up, and it's allowed me, even with incorporating, psilocybin, the shrooms, allowing me to feel and remember things and remember what I, looked like before I had the LASIK surgery and glasses. That Leo,
Yeah.
you kind of forget about that what it's like to feel that way, and then you go, oh, and
Hmm.
so being able to make that evolution and understanding and realizing that, what about all the people that I serve with? I was an anomaly. I got out of the military long before a lot of my friends who are still in and are in the twilights of their career right now. What is going to be available for them? And so thinking about that and having a number of my friends commit suicide, some, 4 attempts and 3 being successful, we're different, I decided that, the one thing that I would, you can say about veterans is we are comfortable with being uncomfortable. And
There you
so I
go.
decided to use that to be the reason why you don't give I'm one of the reasons why you don't give the veteran the microphone, because I'm gonna say some stuff to shake some
Well,
things up.
Leo, one question is that what would you say to the Veteran Affairs if you had a direct dialogue with them, and what would you just say to them? I want to understand, like, what is your position and what is the message to them?
Well, you have to be simple, I think, because again, this is a generational thing that we're talking to. So it's not, people are actually representing an institution as a whole. So I would be actually talking to the VA. But when you're talking to the VA, you actually got to talk to the person. You actually have to scout out, what is the age of that person you are talking to help you for clues to how to deliver the message and keep it as simple as possible. I always tell people, if this was a television show, Shonda, me, you, and Gary, we in season 8, episode 6. When you go talk to the VA, they're in season 1, episode 4. And spoiler alert, it's not a gateway drug. That's the season 1 finale, and we just need to get them to binge watch us real quick, and understand there's a whole lot of, I always say there's 2 types of people: Jetsons and Flintstones. And who they are based on the words that they use. So if they still saying gateway drug and calling it dope, then I already know I know more than you,
Yeah.
and so it's making getting people to understand how this really are, because I realized this, and I'm gonna say this real quick. Dealing with politicians, one day I was talking to a politician, we were going back and forth, and in the midst of the conversation, I realized what the issue was. He gave me a look. He did a thing with his nose where he did like that, and I caught it. And I realized, I said, oh shit, he thinks I'm an addict. He thinks he's talking to an addict, and then once I realized, like, holy crap, he didn't see, veteran, he didn't see, now he saw addict, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking like he saw a New Jack City Pookie addict. That's what I was to him. and
Mm.
and and in that instance, I was infuriated at that point. How dare you, number one. And then number two, it made me realize that there was, like, okay, I'm gonna have to do this the long way. So we're gonna have to change some laws and stuff like that. Well, the good news is that the one common trait about us soldiers and Marines is that we all hard headed. And so I decided to take on this mission to try to get PTSD passed, here in the New Jersey State Legislature as a qualifying condition, and it happened.
It's
Congrats.
amazing to me that you could sacrifice your life for this country, but you don't see the same reciprocated. to protect your life. You know, it's just amazing, and those implications and those stigmas that if you use cannabis, like you said, Gary, you're a weedhead. It doesn't. To me, it's like it's time to be educated, like you said, on the science, so that people understand truly that cannabis is medicine. And Gary, can you briefly talk about your work with your nonprofit here in Louisiana?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Veterans Alliance for Holistic Alternatives, again, was spurred by my invitation to testify here in front of a congressional testimony and on behalf of HB 358, the meter dose inhaler. So very important for veterans to understand why the inhalation method is so important. So from an education and advocacy standpoint, just cannabis in general, understanding the science behind it, understanding what it looks like from that human element, right? PTSD is complicated, but what does it look like inside the home? What does it look like to the veteran who is trying to go out and continue his growth in a world, and these roadblocks that are hidden, that he just, that continuous vicious cycle that he cannot get out of. So it's not only just educating the policymakers, it's also educating veterans on the process. And I think the big piece for me was that even though this helped me, this is why I'm alive today, right? Because I was hiding in my garage smoking a joint. And that was the one thing that got rid of those migraines. It released those compulsive thoughts. It allowed clarity and focus. It reduced my blood pressure and those hyperarousal symptoms. And I was able to connect my subconscious mind into the conscious mind. And if you look at, the development of mindfulness and how that is, and meditation, and how that is, and that holistic approach that's starting to come and creep its way into Western medicine, that is the healing process. And that is what cannabis does. It allows you to connect those two, to understand that your behavior is spurred from emotion, it's spurred from thoughts, which is created from your perspective. That perspective has been ingrained with a traumatic experience that stamps every single memory and sense that comes into your brain. So you're not just going to will your way out of this. So understanding that process is that, one, identify the symptoms. Two, understand that it's normal, right? It's normal. Don't beat yourself up because you can't sleep because, you got mad at your wife. I'm not saying, or just, you can't, I don't want to go down that road, but, or you can't sit and have those conversations with your kids, or don't beat yourself up. If I was able to understand that that was absolutely normal, right? And this was a part of the process, then I would not have been down through some of those dark holes and those wormholes trying to correct. And it just kept creating that vicious cycle. So understanding what it is allows you to break out of that cycle. And once you break out of that cycle, which starts with a thought process, that's post-traumatic growth. And so the key for someone who is looking to recover and to grow is, don't focus on what that outcome looks like. The goal is daily momentum. And I can tell you and share my weaknesses, is there were times when I woke up in the morning and I sung Jesus Loves Me out loud in the shower, just so it would be louder than the voices in my head. Now, for me to sit down and have that in a conversation, a public setting, they were like, schizophrenia? Yep. Mental ward, go. You're a bad person, negative, you lost it, you're done for life, right? Because that's the mentality you get. So for someone who struggles, and it's not only the veteran, it's 7 out of 10 Americans that will experience trauma in their lifetime, and the other 30% is going to live with someone who has. They're all going to experience the same process. We are humans. This is science. So don't let that stigma eat you up. Find the things that are good for you. And if those people stigmatize you for using this plant as medicine, those people don't need to be in your life.
It's true. And I know that when we started this conversation, you made a statement that says, I'm not supposed to be here. Would you reframe that statement now?
Now I know why I am here. It's to share this message. And that's what I do every single day. And that's where the Veterans Alliance for Holistic Alternatives was created, because that's my new purpose in life. And that's my new service in life, is education and advocacy of this plant medicine for that patient, for that person who struggles, for that human to take their health into their own hands and lead a life to post-traumatic growth? Thank you for that question, Shonda.
Of course, in Leo.
I'm appreciative. I appreciate everything you just said because I totally agree. I my journey in this, my cannabis journey has allowed me to tap back in. It's actually forced me to revert back to that I naturally know how to do and have the best command of. And that is the way I did things as a soldier. So being very mission oriented and understanding, like there are certain expectations and learning to when to exercise customs and courtesies and stuff like that, because and recognizing like okay, this is how I can move, and then there's the camaraderie, and so it's the purpose, and then it's opened me up to so many other things. I'm now the I'm now the Shonda, I'm the new general surgeon for VFW Pulse 12165.
Congrats, buddy. Hey,
Yes.
there it is, man. Use it. Use it.
Well, and so what I'm doing with that is actually I am as Surgeon General of Post 12165. My first directive from our new post commander is that I am to sell the VFW's liquor license and use the proceeds to apply for a consumption lounge license and delivery service for the VFW. We want to use this as a test case since our new commander is our old commander has been lifted to senior commander of all the VFWs. So let's change what a VFW does. We can address membership issues because our generation of veterans, we don't drink like that, but we smoke. And so and now we have a means by which we can create generational revenue for the post itself, and also engage veterans in a completely different way, since there are specific carve outs in this new legislative law for New Jersey for veterans.
For
So
better.
you know what? Let's do it this way. Again, the time for oxymoronic politics is over. I mean, they just attacked the Capitol building some months ago. People like everybody need a joint right now, post COVID. So let's make it happen.
Well, I will tell you, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I thank you for connecting mental health with emotional health. It was very important. Also, to know how cannabis was able to help you in your lives and reestablish a purpose, not only that saved yourself, but to save others. So, your voice was heard today. I'm grateful for that. And I look forward to the day that I can see you in person again. Gary, I just saw you. And,
Yeah.
I look forward to coming to New Jersey, put my arms around you, your
Yeah,
beautiful wife, your
yeah.
lovely son, and
Yeah.
thank you again for being, vocal enough to share this message with everybody.
Hey, plug back into your veterans. Take our hands. Let us show you how to America.
All
Yeah.
right.
There you go. Thank you, Leo. Great meeting you, buddy.